My guest, Marilyn Eagen, is a spiritual healing facilitator, and she's been doing this work for over 20 years, helping folks to improve their quality of life. She's an energy medicine practitioner and a certified life coach. You can find her at Marilyn Eagen, EAGEN.com, or at Harmony Healthcare by Marilyn on Facebook. Welcome, Marilyn.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
So
It's a real
today you're going
pleasure.
to talk about, oh, thank you. Yeah. Today you're going to talk about divine guidance for everyday choices. And I know that there's people from all walks of life joining in. So before we get into the talk, let's kind of delineate a little bit what you mean by divine guidance.
Okay. Well, I would say in my younger years, when I wasn't really attuned to listening to the divine guidance, I think I just made decisions off the cuff. It might have been more of a reaction than a response. It might have been based on my emotions, just really without too much consideration of really what was the best choice.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
with divine guidance, it's more about taking time, taking a breath, thinking about what the choices are, asking maybe my guides or my higher self, what is the best choice here in more of a response activity rather than just a reaction. And sometimes it doesn't make logical sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it can be like it can be, if people prefer to view it as like an external, like, our spirit guides or whatever,
Yes.
or internal, like that all-knowing wisdom inside all of us, or even like that intuitive nudge. But that's what you're talking about in terms of divine guidance.
Yes, absolutely. And it does. It works differently for everyone, or they interpret it differently. And everybody finds their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so do you think what is the process for following the divine guidance versus reacting, or possibly, following a logical point of view?
Yeah. Well, it depends a lot on how big the issue is.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just as simple as stopping and breathing. And you may notice how I just caught myself a bit ago looking up instead of looking direct. Sometimes that helps me connect into knowing that I'm really tapping into that energy.
Mhm.
Sometimes if it's a big, heavy thing, I just went through some big, heavy decisions that I had to make. And I wasn't getting clarity. It was something I had to answer in steps. I mean, I knew,
Okay.
okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? Because it was a big project. And I went to bed not feeling clear about my next step. And I wasn't sleeping well. All of a sudden, about 2 in the morning, I heard, get up. I got up and I went downstairs, and I don't use this process often, but it was definitely the right thing in this moment. I got out paper and I wrote down my
Mm.
question. I said, I need help with the next step. Help me. And then I did some automatic writing and journaling to get the answer that way. And it was really, really powerful because I felt really kind of lost about the situation at that moment. And so, but normally in everyday life, it's just taking a breath and making sure that you're responding rather than reacting. But sometimes it's the big stuff. So
Yeah.
it'll be a different process then. And same thing, people will figure out which way it works for them, but it kind of surprised me to hear get up.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of startling in the moment, isn't it?
Yes,
I
yes.
it's my personal philosophy that if you ask a question, it does not go unanswered in some way, shape, or form. It's just a matter of like discerning the answer and not like having the answer address like our logical minds and what we think it should be, but like actually seeing it as it is.
Yes, exactly. And I think one example of that is when my office is a little house called the Peace Place. And it was very funny. 7 years ago, I was driving to my other office, and I knew something was going to show up for me because I wanted to have a yard space. I wanted to have a place to do ceremony. I wanted to have a fire pit. And I kept hearing turn right. And I'm like, no. And I just didn't think I had time to do it, or I wasn't interested in the moment. And I heard this almost every day for about 3 weeks. And finally I said, okay, 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 I'll turn. And I turned and immediately saw the backyard because I didn't know if I
Oh,
was going to rent or buy. I had no idea, really.
right.
I'm like, uh-oh. And then there was a for sale sign, and I'm like, oh, I think I'm going to have to buy. And
Question answered.
yes. And then when I called the realtor in that 3 weeks time that I didn't stop, which I
Mhm.
had no explanation as to why I said no, the price went down by $50,000.
Wow.
So even those silly little moments when you're going, no, I don't know why, just no. You're like, okay, got to go with it. I had no logical reason for
Mm.
saying, no, I'm not going to stop right now. And then it turned out to benefit me because I probably wouldn't even have looked at it at that higher price.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just
Yeah.
simple little things like that you think don't make sense in the big picture later, you may find out why they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That is really interesting. Like I had kind of a similar thing when we were looking for a new home a few years ago, and I just like drove into this neighborhood, and I didn't come down this street at first. I went down the other one. And then finally I came down this street and just saw this house for sale that wasn't really listed, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe, kind of maybe. And, we looked at a few others and, kind of blew this one off for a little bit, but then came back to it. It was really interesting. Yeah, it wasn't something that just like popped up on our radar. It just kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah. And it doesn't always make logical sense. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you responded instead of reacting.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Yeah. So to respond instead of react, to take a moment and pause to make sure we're in that response instead of the reaction. If someone's in a reaction, what can they do?
Number one, stop and take a breath, a nice, really deep breath through the throat. That helps calm down our autonomic nervous system. Because sometimes when we're in reaction mode, it's more of that fight or flight energy. And most likely we're not grounded,
Mm,
connected to the earth. And we're most likely not going to get our highest good answer in that state. So the breath makes a difference. And then just shooting energy through your feet down into the earth, wherever you are. It doesn't matter. You can do it anywhere.
okay.
And then connecting above also. It doesn't take long at all. And then take another breath and go, "Oh, okay." And you can kind of tell that you feel better. You feel more like you have a choice. Sometimes
Mm,
when we react, we feel like we don't have a choice, but we always have a choice, even when it looks like we don't. And that's another thing of the human logic. We can say, no, we don't have a choice. Well, yes, we do. That's our divine logic saying, there's another choice here. You just got to breathe and get grounded and take another look at it.
Yeah, and sometimes just a matter of allowing that creativity to come in. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, just to dig a little bit deeper, how does someone determine if they're in react mode?
Um, Probably feeling the emotion. If they're feeling really emotional about something,
Mm,
and and they are bringing, here's another thing. If they automatically go to an old story in their head,
okay.
an old story that wasn't necessarily a positive for them, and they are trying to make a decision from an old story and may even have different characters in the story, and they may be transferring that energy to this one, to different people, to a different situation, and it doesn't feel good. It's kind of
Mm,
like maybe it feels yucky in your belly.
uh,
Maybe it's getting stuck in your throat, but usually there's some sort of physical response that doesn't make sense to you or something you don't like. And then you've got to stop and go, okay, let's recount this, refigure this, reconnect here.
Gotcha. By old story, you mean like some like along the lines of like, I can't, I shouldn't, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, or
Yes, yeah, or even an old memory of when something didn't go well for them,
mm,
but we don't have to follow those old stories. We can make changes, or a different person. Maybe they're saying, "Oh, well, when I did that with that guy, that didn't work out so well."
yeah, right. Yeah.
They're looking at this guy and putting that onto him when he had nothing to do with it, you know?
Hmm.
Or a
Yeah.
friend, it can be in any relationship, we can do that. And then even in our own personal things, like you said, our own relationship with ourself, we
Yeah.
can pull up old things that really aren't true, because our guidance is not going to tell us that we are stupid, dumb, wrong. They're they're going to be gentle and loving and kind. And if we are maybe jumping in a reactionary way, we might even feel something telling us, whoa. They're not saying you're wrong. You might hear breathe, kind of like I heard get up,
Hmm.
um, or you might even feel it. Okay, let's take a breath. And
Yeah.
then you can feel the difference inside your body.
So you're saying if you feel some discomfort or you're feeling like a height of emotion or you're feeling some kind of yuckiness or the negative voices, then that is your way to know that you're listening to the brain and instead should take a pause to get some guidance.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what are some ways that people can tap into that guidance?
Well, one thing I do, I have a daily routine that doesn't take very long that I do every morning.
Okay.
And I notice that I feel better the rest of the day, when that happens. And the reason being is in energy medicine, I've learned, I mean, for those who are aware of meridians and chakras and auras and these energies, we have a natural system that is meant to take care of us and keep us in balance and heal us.
Hmm.
However, right now, when the outside world
Yeah.
feels very chaotic, or
Right.
we're very vulnerable to feeling other people's things, then those systems get out of alignment. So that's really what I do is it's like 4.5, 5 minute routine in the morning that just gets those things back into their natural alignment, the way they were meant to be in the first place. And then we feel better about the day. And then throughout the day, if something can throw you off, that's okay. You just recenter again.
Gotcha.
And yeah.
Do you want to share anything about your morning routine that may or may not help someone out there?
Sure, I would love to. Um, there's one exercise. It's based on Donna Eden's work, but I modified little pieces that I've been playing with for 15 years now. And this one is so simple, but so powerful at the same time. I call it the central dig, but what it is, it's about telling our body that we are safe.
Mm,
Because when our body doesn't feel safe, our mind
yeah.
may think, oh no, I'm safe, but our body's going, then that automatic or autonomic nervous system can just fire up and put us in fight or flight, and then we don't think straight if we're out
Yeah.
of our body. So this little tiny exercise takes maybe a minute, grounds our energy to the earth, and it actually opens up polarities on the bottom of our feet. So energy moves all the way through us, and then it opens up our crown. So it goes both ways. And it's central vessel, which is a meridian that starts right around the pubic bone. And so I just take my hands, I'll stand up for just a second and show. Well, here, I'm at the pubic bone, but I leapfrog my fingers up this central vessel.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I dig into this line that comes all the way up the front of the body, I just tell my body I am safe. Because this central vessel has an energy of hypnosis. So what we tell it, it starts to believe. And just say, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. And it's about being safe in all areas of life, to be who you really are, to express who you really are, to love as big or however you want to love, and to think and know. But it's about being safe in all of those areas. So as you come up the front, this central vessel really ends right here. So I hold the chin, and then I take my middle finger to the hollow, that hollow that's on the back of your head, and I feel it move up the spine and say, I am safe. And then up to the crown. In Chinese medicine, there's so many points, so
Yeah.
many parts of our energy system that we connect with right here. And so we move through that, take some breaths, and that actually expands our aura. It does tell us we're safe,
Mm-hmm.
Opens up the crown. Energy can move. When our energy is not moving, we can feel kind of like a pinball machine. That would be another reason you're getting into a reactive state, is if you're feeling like a pinball
Right.
machine. We all know that feeling sometimes. So that
Yeah.
exercise is so simple, but it makes a lot of changes, and it just takes a minute.
Well, it's a beautiful practice. I mean, I used to do body work and did shiatsu, and so I'm familiar with that vessel. And I love how like we automatically do that and we don't realize it. Like, oh my
Yes.
God, I'm so stressed, or oh, I can't believe this is happening to me, or oh my stomach is so upset because I'm worried about something. And so we're automatically hitting that
Yes.
central vessel to calm our nervous system down. So I think just for people, like, yes, it's anecdotal, yes, it hasn't been discovered by science, but yes, it's like 4,000 years old, so maybe it works, I don't know.
Exactly. Well, and that's a good point. We say it's really more than 5,000 years old. There's a book called Yellow Emperor that was written 5,000 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's obvious in that book, even though even the translation into English is difficult to read, it's obvious that they saw other people's energy. They talked about how it looks. So really powerful. And then Western medicine, which is valuable, we need it from time to time, but we need to use them together. But it's been
Absolutely.
around less than 200 years.
Yeah.
And Chinese medicine, these Oriental medicines have been around, and meridians have been worked with for, like you said, over 5,000 years. So
Yeah. Yeah.
something's working.
The thing that validates it for me, and I know it's different for everyone, but they didn't just like theorize and come up with something that, matches a theory. They took hundreds of years of observation and compiled it into a practice. Um,
Yes,
so
exactly.
yeah, they observed soldiers coming back from battles and like,
Yes.
"Oh, I have a wound here. Oh, but all of a sudden I feel this," and so they took notes. And, it's the same reason why I love the Gottman Institute. Like they didn't theorize and come up with the ways to make marriage work. They observed and then they put it into practice.
Yes, exactly. And that's really how Donna Eden did her work also. Now she could see energy, but she picked up a book that she's like, "Oh, this is exactly what I see," called Touch for Health, that had been studied, written by physicians. And she's like, "Oh, that's exactly what I see. That's exactly how it works." Because she could see it. And it was also based on the science that these men had already put on paper, which
Mhm.
is pretty phenomenal too. So, yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was based on Chinese medicine. It was based on those systems that we know that the divine put in place to hold us in balance. And I just think we're in a time right now where things are changing really, really fast. And that part of our energy system's not keeping up. So we have to be a little bit proactive to support that in our bodies.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about like divine guidance for everyday choices, like,
Yes.
so like how everyday are we talking about here? Like,
Well, that has changed over the years for me too. It used to be it was more the bigger things that I talked about, and now it's almost everything. Almost everything. Um, like when I get in my car to leave, um, sometimes they're like, "Oh no, go ahead and check your text right now," or "Go ahead and check your phone before you leave," or things like that. There will either be something there that I needed to know before I left, or it changed the timing of my drive for a good reason.
okay.
Just simple little things like that. I do stop and just breathe and go, "Okay, now, later." It's very interesting, and I didn't used to look at every little thing, but I'm beginning to. And then noticing little signs and little messages. Um, this is kind of funny. I drove to Asheville, North Carolina last week for a class, and I had a friend with me. And we were talking about the class on our way home and how valuable it was to us. And then we stopped to buy gas, and we had been driving on Highway 40 and Interstate 24, right? That had been the signs for hundreds of miles. I get out to buy gas, $40.24, 40.24, which was the highways we were on. I'm like, "Okay, that's great validation. This was a really good thing for both of us."
All right.
And it's
Yeah.
not only it's validation, it's fun, it can make you laugh, make you smile, which then maybe the reason for that was just to get our energies in balance for the rest of the drive. Because laughter, a breath, fun can be very supportive to your whole system to help pull you back into that alignment that you need to be in too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know, there's just a lot of little things that if you think about, it's been helpful to ask about every little thing.
So it's like just noticing the little things that may be validating or answering or
Yes. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Or it can even go the other way. We both needed to stop to go to the restroom, and we had been in a really clean, beautiful energy the whole time. And we're like, well, this place is not really super clean, but we'll go in. We both came out feeling really yucky. And so eventually the next stop we made, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling antsy, I'm jumpy inside. What do I need? And I just got out of the car and started shaking and bouncing around to shake out some of that energy that we probably took on at this little town gas station that really wasn't clean and had probably some energy that didn't serve us. But we knew how to clear it. So actually, we did a service too of clearing it as we left also. We didn't know we were doing that, but then we got out of the car and we shook it off and like, okay, it doesn't really matter where it came from. It came to us and we shook it off. But it's just kind of knowing that when there's something that feels that uncomfortable, okay, what do I do to clear this up and feel better? What do I
What do
need
I
right now
need?
in this moment to feel
Yeah.
better?
Yeah.
And it can be
So,
various things.
you've mentioned it a couple times, like the energy sensitivity. I believe that there are many people out there that are energetically sensitive and not knowing that they are. They're
Right.
kind of like little sponges and walk into places or be around people and all of a sudden just feel yuck, and kind
Yeah.
of take that on. Do you have any like advice for people that are thinking maybe they might be energy sensitive or emotional sensitive?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, finding a daily routine that works for you, like that central dig.
Hmm.
Another thing that it does is when you get to the heart center, really sensitive people usually have a very giant loving heart. And when when we don't know to do anything, then when it sometimes separates from the body. It separates your aura from the body. And then energies that are more needy can just jump right in there. So, and that's why we had to shake it out. It jumped in and we were not thinking about protecting ourselves in that moment, which was fine. We were totally fine. But doing that central dig in the morning oftentimes can bring that aura back to your body so you don't have to feel the heaviness of somebody else's energy. So it really makes a difference it's kind of really like a zip up, like you zip your own energy up.
Hmm.
And that morning we left really early and we didn't take the time to do what we had been doing every day, what we normally do every day. And we were a little vulnerable, but then we got the message of what to do to clear it too. So, but yeah, there are so many people who are really sensitive and they don't know. And like I said, our bodies were made to protect us, but in these times right now, and I don't mean to make that scary for anyone at all, because there's easy ways to clear it too. But if they just find something that works for them, whether if it's just zipping their energy up with their hand like this, or saying a prayer in the morning, or meditating and asking that their energy be zipped up so they don't take on other people's. There's so many different simple ways, even if you're not um, fully trained in other ways.
Yeah. I used to, when I was doing massage, I used to have a little thing that I said in my head because I'm very intuitive and I wanted to set like an energetic boundary. And so in my head, I'd say, what's yours is yours, and what's mine is mine. And the only thing that flows between us is divine. And it's catchy, and it, and
Yes, yes, exactly. Something like that is lovely. Yeah.
yeah.
And even
And
just having that thought
yeah.
in all day long, no matter where you are. Yeah.
Well, I think I've said it enough in my own head that I'm, unless it's someone very close to me and I'm around them a lot, I'm very rarely affected by other people's energy. I mean, I can feel energy.
Mhm.
I can feel the energy of a place, but I'm not as often affected by it. And when I am, I can ask myself, I can discern if it's mine or if it's someone else's. And if it's someone else's, like, maybe there's something for me to learn from it. So I ask, what do I need to know from this? What?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it
So
could
yeah,
be something that you need to know, or it could be, no, just clear it. They didn't know how to clear it, so you do.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're well into woo land for anyone out there that doesn't
Yes.
celebrate woo. We are well into woo. Thank you for joining us on the ride. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but everything has an energetic vibration, so we're not just completely just making up stuff, and
Um,
it and I I wanted to clarify. We talk about high vibration and low vibration and stuff like that all the time, but
yeah.
I want to be clear, like, I've experienced low vibration and at a temple, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
and and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was
Right.
just another experience, on the spectrum of energy. There's all
Right.
of it. It's how we interpret it that matters, you know?
Yes. And that's great because I like to speak about that too. I don't really label energy is energy, right? It's and even in shamanism, we were taught, um, oh, you need to release what is hucha energy to you, meaning your lower frequency that you don't need any longer, so you can bring in Sammy for you. But it doesn't mean it's bad energy. What was hucha to you may be somebody else's Sammy, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not about judging it, it's just about appreciating all of it, and that we're all here to learn and grow, on the planet. Humans are meant to make mistakes. We weren't brought here to be perfect beings, and the energy is here to support us in many different ways. So I really try not to label it as good or bad because we really don't know. Maybe it's just trying to tell us something.
Yeah. If we
And
if we look at the energy system, like you were talking about the chakras, right?
yeah,
Like the root chakra naturally vibrates slower, and then
yes,
the earth even slower, but our crown higher, faster, and the sun even faster.
right.
So it's just a matter of fast or slow and our comfort level with it, and what resonates and what doesn't resonate, and what we need to take in. And yeah, it's interesting.
Exactly. And so really my line with that is to love it all. It's
Yeah.
to love it all. And I guess another piece about that decision making that we were talking about that I use a lot that I'd kind of forgotten about as we were talking was when there's a choice between love and fear, I go with love always. And that's another way to discern is like, oh, am I making this choice out of fear? Is there anything really to be fearful of here? Or am I afraid of the love that might show up? you know? And I choose love.
I
So
think some people, like, they're still kind of mistrusting of love. They're in the older perspective of love, or the more 3D, or however you want to say it,
yeah,
confining perspective of love, instead of the open-hearted, uh,
universe.
universal, compassionate. It
Yeah.
doesn't come with condition. And it's not that we're always, yeah, unconditional, because we can't be. We're human,
We
but
try.
we try, we endeavor. And so, like discerning, like fear or love, it's like, how does this make me feel in my body? What would that choice feel like in my body?
Yeah.
And like, fear feels contractive and love feels expansive. And
Yes.
that to me is how to discern if I'm choosing from fear or love.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way for a lot of choices. Do I expand with this or do I contract with this? And you're absolutely right. Love expands. Love is like light, and light expands. Darkness contracts, and darkness cannot expand
Mm,
like light. Yeah.
yeah. And
So
it's
yeah, that's
interesting.
another big way of making decisions. So that's also divine guidance.
Mm.
It's divine guidance to use that. How do we feel expansion without knowing the divine made us to feel this way when it's a good choice, right?
Yeah.
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 So, Marilyn, for people that are outside of St. Louis, again, we shared your website, Marilyn Eagen, EAGEN.com, and on Facebook, Harmony Healthcare by Marilyn. But how are ways that people can access you or can work with you outside of the St. Louis area?
Right now, I'm on Facebook. My business my business page is Harmony Healthcare by Marilyn. I also have a group page based on my office, the little house. It's my office. That is the Peace Place group, and it's got various information. And you can, on either one of those, you can ask me to get on my mailing list. I'm not going to lie, right now, I have been so swamped with one-on-ones and trying to uh, rearrange my business a little bit that I have done very few newsletters, but I'm getting ready to get back into that as we speak. So I would love for anybody who wants to receive my newsletter to let me know that way. And then I have another page on Facebook that we started it out of wanting to have a subject to, or a mantra, or a song, or a word to meditate with. And that
Okay.
we were all meditating, how powerful that was. Now I just put things that are about love and peace, and it's called Together in Love and Peace Daily.
Okay.
And you can go there also and connect with me. So yeah,
Is that a Facebook group or a Facebook
it's
page?
it's a group, but
Okay.
you can join it very easily. I don't think it
Okay.
takes any approvals, like my Peace Place group is more of a private group, but I've rarely turned anybody down for it either. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I know that there's a lot of value in looking at the energetics of things, because we experience life emotionally, physically, and of course energetically, because everything has energy. And that they all interact and inform each other in very complex and nuanced ways. So I appreciate this conversation. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thank you very much. Yeah. Is
Well,
there
thank
anything
you.
you'd like to add to what we've said so far?
Um, I had something a moment ago, but I think we just covered it. So, I mean, it's just because, just remember that when you're making these decisions, if it feels like love, feels expansive, but does not make human logical sense, it's still usually the right choice.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Which feels weird to do, but once you start making that and you see how it works for you, then you can decide then how you want to utilize that. But that's been my experience, that even if it doesn't follow human logic, for me, it's been the right thing to do, to go with the expansion and the love.
Mm.
So,
And we talked about signs real quick.
yes.
I just want to touch base on that again. Like, say someone is at a point in their life where they're just really needing some guidance. How do they know that something is a sign? How can they discern if that's something that they need to pay attention to?
Well, oftentimes, same thing, that expansion
Okay.
or goosebumps
Mm.
or a sigh that gives them relief, um, or just a sense of calm running through their body.
Okay. All right.
Because usually when you're really in that moment where you just don't know, it's hard to find that peace and calm. And so if you see something and it makes you go, "Oh," and you get calm, it's usually a sign for you. And a lot of people try to fight with themselves and go, "Well, yeah, it was this or that. It doesn't mean anything." And I'm like, "Well, and how did it make you feel?"
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. How did it make you feel? And to me also, if I could add, to me also, like sometimes if it's repeated, like if it's
Yes.
more than once, like or just like a coincidence, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as coincidences, people. None. No such
None.
thing as coincidence.
No. And if they have to repeat it over and over again, it's kind of like they've got this little rubber mallet going, "Wake up, wake up. We've shown you this 5 times now." You know?
Yeah.
The guides really don't give up on you. They really don't. They keep talking and keep talking in various ways, and so you know when it's repeated, "Okay, I better at least give it a little bit of attention."
So aside from that intuitive guidance, it sounds like you're talking about guides also. So how can one maybe tap into like external guidance that's of a positive source? Like how can one explore that for themselves?
Um, yeah, that's a very good question because, um, when I first started receiving messages, I really didn't know it
Mm.
until somebody said, "You realize you're channeling when you're working." I'm like, "Well, I don't know." And then I had to think about it, and I'm like, "Well, something would pop into my head that
Mm.
I hadn't really thought of before, and why did I think of it right then when it was appropriate for them?"
Mhm.
And sometimes it was like even just a concept that I had to find the words for,
Mhm.
and that's actually tapping into those guides. And it just takes some time and some practice to say, "Okay, is this what you meant by that?" You can just think that in your head, and you may get the chills or, the goosebumps or the aha feeling. Um, it's like paying attention. Just know that everybody has access to some way of intuitive guidance.
Mm.
And so many people think, "Well, I don't get that," but they do. They do. It's just a matter of continuing to ask the questions if it doesn't feel right to you, or ask your body to say, "Okay, give me goosebumps when that's the truth," or "Let me feel a touch on my hand. Let me feel something that's really real." And they'll give it to you. They
We get to
do.
set those parameters for ourselves.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I always like to tell people like who disbelieve woo, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, if we have consciousness and we have a subconscious and perhaps there's a collective consciousness and what you discern as guidance, right? Or guides, other
Yeah.
people might discern as collective consciousness, that creativity that comes from everyone
Yes.
on
Yeah.
earth. So
Yeah.
it's how we choose to interpret that. But either way, guidance is guidance, whether you want to believe it's from angels or your body or the collective consciousness, it doesn't matter. It's
Right.
just that well, the guidance system. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And even when we talked about emotions that didn't feel good, that can be a guidance system. Like
Mm,
if
mhm,
suddenly there's like some sort of anger or fear, or it's not a bad emotion. It's just like the energy. It's energy, just like we talked about good and bad energy. Emotions are also not good or bad. It's trying to
mhm,
tell you there's something off, um, or something that could feel better in you. And then you can ask, or you can journal, or you can write, say, please tell me, let me know, is it this, and get goosebumps or not? Is it this, and does it feel expansive or not? But
mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's about everybody finding their way, but just don't be afraid to ask questions. And it feels crazy at first when you're thinking, what am I asking questions to? I'm not really sure.
Well, it could be even yourself, right? Your own
It could be
your
your
subconscious.
right, could be yourself, could be angels, could be God, could be a guide that's sent by the divine. We don't know. But also to discern that too, like I said earlier, you're not going to get negative things. Like people think they get, oh, yeah, you're not good at that. You shouldn't be doing that. That somebody else can do that better. That's not real guidance. That is our old program that we either grew up with or inherited, or old stories of that's ego based. And what I feel like I know now is our ego can evolve with us, and
Mm,
our ego can be of service to us.
I love this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can ask that ego, don't talk like that to me, please. I need you to serve me. That is not of service. That is not helpful.
So when we talk about ego, we talk about like those lower level thoughts of, not good enough, la 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 la. But, you know, but also ego can be personality. Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so for people to be like, "Oh, get rid of your ego," and it's like, well, that's just kind of like getting rid of your favorite shirt. Like,
Yeah.
why can't
Yeah.
you just have fun with it? Like, dress it up, dress it down, whatever.
Yes. Yes. Well, you said earlier, I've been in this work for a very long time. 20 years ago, that's what was being taught. And even though I was a newbie, I'm like, you do not get rid of that ego. You you can ask it to be quiet or take a nap if it's not slowing down the ugly, you know.
Mhm, mhm.
But yeah, it's here to serve us or play with us or help us with the fun. It's to help us um, be our higher self on the earth plane, right? In
It's
this
an
3D world
expression.
as an
Yeah, yeah.
expression. Right,
I
right.
I long time ago, I had this dream. So I was born at the end of October, so Scorpio, and
Yes.
for people that are into that, and I had this dream that I had a scorpion on my hand, and it was my pet scorpion, and
Yeah.
I would give it little treats, and there was a lipstick shaped treat and a shoe shaped treat, and and the scorpion didn't have the stinger in the tail anymore, which was very significant to me, but it still had the pinchers. But as long as I fed the treats, she was happy and we could play and it was fun. And that was when I had that realization of I don't have to get rid of my ego. I can be
No.
friends with it. I just don't
Yeah.
want it to rule me and dominate me and run my life.
Right, right. That's adorable. I got goosebumps when you were telling that story.
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful, creative way of working with your ego. So yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I have 2 Scorpio children.
Okay.
And Scorpios are beautiful.
We get a
It
bad rep. We get a really bad
Yes,
rep.
absolutely. Because, when they say, "Oh, but they go deep." Both ways, always.
Yeah.
And that can be really lovely.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Don't worry about us Scorpios. We're just fine. Like,
Yes,
there's others.
absolutely.
There
Yeah.
maybe worry about some others. No, I'm just joking.
They are
That's
strong.
Scorpio talking.
Yeah, they're strong for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Marilyn, thank you so much for this precious conversation. I really appreciate you being here.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.